Independent Living and Rehabilitation Research, NIDILRR, and specifically to Hugh Berry, our project officer, for their support of our center. Our program today highlights research from our center as well as other employment-related research funded by NIDILRR. I would like to specifically thank our center's research partners for their continued contributions and their assistance with this conference. The Association of University Centers on Disabilities, Kessler Foundation, Mathematica Policy Research, and the University of Chicago. We're thankful for the participation of other NIDILRR-funded grantees in our event today as well. We have people attending in person in DC and online today. Registrants include people from advocacy organizations, the media, federal, state, and county agencies, research organizations, academic organizations, rehab professionals, and others. Thank you all for being here. If you've ever wondered about the effects of Medicaid expansions on the employment of individuals with disabilities, we have a panel for you today. If you're interested in opportunities to expand employment among people with disabilities, stay tuned. If you're interested in trends in employment and the latest employment rates among persons with disabilities, we'll share that information as well. We'll also share information about employer practices, job quality, and contingent employment. Lastly, if none of that piques your interest, we can have fun seeing which presenters can actually stick to their allotted speaking times and how creative we can be to ensure that they adhere to those guidelines. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Phil Beatty from NIDILRR. Phillip Beatty serves as the Associate Director of the Office of Research Sciences within NIDILRR. In this capacity, Dr. Beatty oversees NIDILRR's broad portfolio of disability and rehabilitation research grants. Prior to joining NIDILRR in 2003, Dr. Beatty worked at the National Rehabilitation Hospital Center for Health and Disability Research, conducting research on the health and long-term care experiences of people with disabilities. Prior to beginning his public service at NIDILRR more than 15 years ago, he authored or co-authored more than 20 peer-reviewed publications on the experiences and outcomes of people with disabilities, among other topics. He has a PhD in sociology from American University.
Thank you, Deb, and welcome to everyone, and thank you especially to everyone at the Research and Training Center on Employment Policy and Measurement for pulling together this important event. The NIDILRR team and all of our colleagues across ACL and ODEP and other critical government agencies and the disability community, as Deb noted, we're all looking forward to learning about the current state of the science related to the employment status of people with disabilities and the extent to which employment outcomes are related to specific policies, practices, interventions that are happening in the field. The whole agenda today, as Deb kind of foreshadowed, the whole agenda is packed with presentations and discussions that are central to understanding employment of people with disabilities, and again, the policies and practices that can drive employment outcomes. And I'm going to do something similar to what Deb did. I'm just reflecting on the agenda here and the real value in the agenda and the way it's put together. On panel 2 later this morning, I'm interested in learning more about the current gig economy and how that might be related to job quality among people with disabilities. Over lunch and in other sessions, there's going to be a lot of discussion about measurement of employment rates among people with disabilities and trends in those rates over time. The monthly NTIDE reports have been a great addition to knowledge in the field, just really timely addition to our knowledge. And we're looking forward to hearing more about the present and the future of those reports and what they mean to us. This afternoon, across 2 panels, we'll hear about a variety of interventions and opportunities and service systems and incentive programs aimed at increasing employment rates of people with disabilities. And again, all of us here, gathered here in person and online, are looking forward to learning from those panels and participating in discussions with the panelists. So as Deb noted, there is a panel on the first panel, and the topic, one of the central topics on this panel is the extent to which Medicaid expansion decisions happening in the states are related to employment outcomes for people with disabilities. And this is the panel that I've been looking most forward to. Because it's a big question, and because we have different grantees from NIDILRR's portfolio who have been looking into that question about the relationship between Medicaid expansion and employment rates, and there's a rich body of knowledge that NIDILRR and NIDILRR's grantees are generating around this question. For those of you who don't know what was scheduled to be presented, I'm going to give away the punchline up front and let you know that the two groups of NIDILRR grantees have come to different conclusions about the question of Medicaid expansion and its relationship to employment outcomes. In the world of policy research, this kind of thing happens all the time. What I'm really looking forward to is the collegial sharing of information and ideas about samples, methodologies, findings, interpretations, and ideas about future iterations of these analyses. From our perspective in NIDILRR, the path to better knowledge and better knowledge-based policy is through triangulation, collegial methodological discussion, and multiple points of data. And to us, and I think to all of you, that's a refreshing and affirming approach, especially in the current overheated political environment that we're right in the middle of here on Constitution Avenue in Washington today. So with all that being said, I've learned this morning that one of our panelists, Dr. Kennedy, is snowed in the upper Northwest, so he won't be able to be here to represent the findings and the analyses that the CRIL has been doing on this topic, and that's too bad, but it just means that we won't be able to see firsthand that discussion that is ongoing and that will be happening in the coming weeks and months. But we trust that discussion is happening, and through triangulation and collegial work, we will be able to triangulate and figure out the best path forward around this important policy question. So again, thanks to all the panelists on the agenda today, the research that you've been doing and the discussions that we'll have are really the foundation for more effective policy to drive up employment rates for people with disabilities. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who's going to moderate our first panel. And again, welcome to everyone here in the room and those of you online. Thanks, Andrew.